Let's take a kg of copper. It is at 25 degrees Celsius. We supply heat such that it goes to 26 degrees Celsius. The amount of heat supplied for 1 degree increase Q is 385 joules. So copper goes from 25 to 26 degrees Celsius, taking 385 joules. Let's do a few changes to this scenario. First is to supply more heat so that it goes to 27 degrees Celsius. So now it is 2 degrees increase in temperature so that the heat supplied is also 2 times more. So Q is proportional to delta T. Another change is the change in the material itself. Let's change it from copper to nickel. It takes a different amount of heat, 440 joules. Since the required Q changes with the material, we can say Q is proportional to a material constant, small c. By combining these equations, we can write Q equals C delta T or C equals Q by delta T. This is the heat capacity, amount of heat required per degree increase in temperature. Unit is joule per Kelvin. Are we missing anything here? What about changing the mass from 1 kg? So instead of 1 kg, let's take 2 kgs and supply heat. It goes from 25 to 26 degrees Celsius. Again, in this case, the amount of heat required will be double the value of 385. Therefore, Q is proportional to the mass. Let's include it to the earlier equation and change the constant into a different one, capital C. Now this is called the specific heat capacity, which has the unit of joule per gram per Kelvin. Why in terms of only mass? Representation in terms of moles is more useful in thermodynamics. Let's do it. Instead of a kg, let's take a mole of copper, which will have the atomic weight of copper 64 grams. To increase the temperature by 1 degree, it takes about 25 joules. For 2 moles, 2 times of it. So Q is proportional to number of moles here. This is the molar heat capacity with units joule per mole per Kelvin. Let's take a gaseous system where we will get further insights into this quantity. 1 mole of neon is at 25 degrees in both these containers. In the first case, the piston is not constrained, so when the heat is supplied, it moves. The temperature also increases to 26 degrees Celsius. The weight on the top has not changed, so the pressure is constant. In the other case, the piston is constrained. When heat is supplied, the temperature increases. Here the volume is constant. In both the cases, change in temperature is equal, 1 degree Celsius. So which process requires more heat? In the first case, it is 21 joules, and in the second case, it is only 13 joules. At constant P, the given heat Q has to do two things: increase the temperature and increase the volume. In the constant volume case, Q has to do only one thing, that is to increase the temperature only. Therefore, the heat capacity depends on pressure and volume. So at constant pressure, it is called the Cp, and at constant volume, it is Cv. In differential form, it can be written like this. Let's take this Cv expression. Recall the first law. Since volume is constant, this term is going to be 0. So the heat supplied is equal to the change in internal energy. So Cv can be written like this. We have this equation about U. We are talking about molar value here, so number of moles is not included. Substitute it here. We get Cv equals 3 halves of R. Let's do something similar starting from Cp. Substitute the formula for U. Since P is constant, it doesn't make any difference if we take it to the inside of derivative. Substitute PV equals RT. Again, we are talking about molar quantity here, so no need to bother about N. So Cp is 5 halves of R. Since Cv is 3 by 2 of R, we can write Cp is equal to Cv plus R. Our Cp by Cv is 5 by 3, a constant, gamma. We took the slightly involved process of arriving at this expression because this is useful in calculating work done in an adiabatic process, which is important in the context of this series.